Hello, friends. Patrick McFarland here with the Liberty Weekly podcast, coming at you with another episode. This is episode 59, and it's actually a reshoot of an earlier episode that we did that had some technical difficulties, and we're going to try and emulate that great conversation here. But joining me on the horn right now is Stephen Clyde, who just started a great podcast called the Peace and Liberty Podcast. He is the newest addition to the Libertarian Union, and we're very excited to have him. Stephen, how's it going, man?
Hey, thanks for having me on again, Patrick. Glad we could redo this without me sounding like a robot. So no one go back and listen to that old one. That one is trash now. This is the episode now.
No, it was a great episode, and you
agreed, but yeah.
I'm going to keep it because it was a great one, but there's still those technical difficulties, but that's just part of starting your own show. So we were talking about that, and you've been live for about a week now with this new show?
Yep. So my plan was to go Monday through Friday, and honestly, that's I don't know why I put that upon myself. Like, I could have easily made it like a Tuesday, Thursday, made my life a lot easier, but I did it. I've done 5 episodes so far. Next week, I'm going to be doing a theme which is going to be woman in libertarianism. So I'm going to have 5 great guests on. Do you know Dr. Mary Ruwart?
Yeah, I heard her on the Tom Woods show once, actually.
Oh, she's wonderful. She has the book Healing Our World. Excuse me, Healing Our World, and she's coming out with another book called Death by Regulation. I mean, that title alone like makes me want to pick it up. But she sent me a sneak peek of it, and I've just been looking through it, and it's really, really great. So I'm going to go ahead and pre-order her book. But yeah, on the show that she's going to be airing next Friday. So I'm going to be promoting her book, and that should be a really, really great episode. But you know, the point I'm trying to break through the stereotype that libertarianism is like a white male movement. And even if statistically that was true, like the way I think about it, liberty is for absolutely everybody, or at least everybody that respects property rights or, you know, cares about other people in a negative right sense. So I mean, I don't care if you're black or blue or a woman or a trans, like I just care if you care about liberty. So trying to break through some stereotypes, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So I had so many new things coming up that we'll talk about eventually.
Yeah, right. I mean, right on, man. And you're having Sherry Voluntary on, is that correct?
Yep, we actually already recorded the episode, and it went great. She's a really awesome friend, and yeah, so I think she's gonna be airing. Oh, I believe it's gonna be Wednesday. So we'll link to that. Yeah.
Yeah, right on. No, I've been meaning to try and connect with her, actually, but oh,
she's awesome. She's awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, because I see Speaking Freely, her radio show on Facebook all the time in the groups and stuff. So we have a thing going, I think, in these groups. Maybe it's just us spamming our content at it, but
oh no, I was talking to Dan the other day about how much I love the Libertarian Union, because you have like 5-10 other friends that are just sharing your stuff, and like we all like promote each other. And it's a big domino effect. It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's been super cathartic, actually. Like,
yeah, for sure.
So why don't you talk a little bit about the impetus behind the show? Talk about your liberty journey, maybe your liberty journey first, and then how it went into your show.
Yeah, so I kind of had the typical Republican upbringing. I was born and raised Baptist parents. I went to a private school when I was younger, and they're heavily neoconservative. So I grew up in that type of environment, and growing up in that type of environment, I have similar views that compared to what I do now, but obviously libertarianism, I've evolved a lot more in my views. But I used to be sound in economics, but I just thought war was a good thing, you know, essentially. And I thought government was good in some areas. So when I entered college when I was 18, my first 2 semesters, I took an English and sociology class, and man, those classes screwed me up, because the way left-wing people talk to you, there is some type of emotional aspect to it that when you say something emotionally, it seems like it's true, because like, oh man, like you're just like feeling what that person's saying. But in reality, I was getting brainwashed with a whole lot of stuff that I didn't realize till later. And it's often way later you realize, like, man, like, I can't believe she was saying that stuff to me. But my second semester of college, I took an economics class, and that completely changed my life. I had a great teacher. I remember there was this girl that sat in front of me, and I would talk to her throughout the semester. I was at a point where I think it was during the Obama election, and I didn't have a problem saying I'd vote for Obama. I would just, I was headed toward the left, you know, coming from my neoconservative background. And I remember she asked the teacher, why can't we just print more money? Won't that help people? And he gave the lesson of scarcity, and it's like money has value because it's scarce. And something went off in my head that I made a connection for the first time, and that I realized what economics was. And basically economics explains almost everything that your natural intuitions can't. Teaches us how people interact with each other. So that was my journey to libertarianism. It's yeah, I found Ron Paul, I think it was in 2008, so pretty typical in that way. I mean, there's yeah, that's pretty much how I found libertarianism. As far as the show, I tell a lot of people this. I could have never ever imagined I would be doing this. I remember one day I was just sitting at home, you know, thinking about things, and I put myself in front of a camera, and I was just like, if I was going to do a podcast, how would it sound? And I just winged like an intro, and I'm like, huh. And I just kept thinking about it. And eventually I bought a decent camera and put myself in front of that, and things just progressed. And eventually I just got an idea stuck in my head. It's funny, if you ask Dan, I don't know if he still has this, but I would be sending him little drawings I would make on paint. And I was like trying to think of like a studio, and like, this is pretty much how it looked in the paint picture. Like, this is how I imagine it. So the reason I wanted to do the show is because one, I want to bring more people to the idea of liberty. Like, if they stumble across my video, maybe they'll hear something I say that resonates somehow and they think about it more. But I think there's a big problem in the libertarian movement, and I'm sure you realize it too, that people aren't reading books. And if you're not reading books, what the hell are you doing? Are you watching a YouTube video and using a talking point from that? You're going to get easily defeated in any argument with a leftist that reads books. And a leftist could be reading BS books, but they're going to have some type of knowledge on hand, whether it's BS or not, and you're not going to have anything. And this is way, way, way too common among libertarians. I do not understand it. Like, when I found libertarianism, I admit I was kind of a talking point libertarian for many years, but you get to a point where you realize, man, I don't change anyone's views when I talk to them. And I remember when I first started reading like Henry Hazlitt, and I picked up Rothbard, when I was talking to people, it was starting to become much different. It was becoming apparent to me that even if people wouldn't admit that I changed their mind, they would come to me like a week later and be like, damn, like, you were just throwing out fact after fact after fact. And I went home that night and looked it up, and you were right. Well, how about that? You know, you pique people's interest by first finding some common ground. You know, if I start with the leftists, I'm just like, man, I freaking hate the war. You know, all these war criminals. You can bring it about any way you want. But once you establish that common ground, that's where you go in. And, you know, you can take it from any angle you want to. You can start with crony capitalism, just be like, man, I hate the fact that Walmart gets these billions of subsidies. You know, because libertarians do agree with that. I mean, they shouldn't get any subsidies at all. So you can find, you're trying to build the bridge. And I basically trying to build the bridge from libertarians who, they have a few talking points. Maybe they could explain why the minimum wage is bad decently, but overall, like, I'm trying to build the bridge to help people realize, just go pick up a book. You know, if you read economics in one lesson, you're going to understand more economics than most people get an economics degree. It's the truth. And I was reading Henry Hazlitt the other day, like, he conveys these ideas beautifully. So that's the gist of why I started my podcast. Like, I want libertarianism to grow, and I think it's dying. I think with Sarwark and Gary Bake the Cake Johnson and Bill, I'm going to support Hillary instead of my own running mate, Weld. You can't make this stuff up. So I would like to see libertarianism go in a different direction. I think the one thing I'm cautious about is, you know, I am starting a podcast. I could become, you know, quite famous or a celebritarian or whatever you want to call it. But I always want to let people know that I'm never seeking to try to control anything or make you think about things. I'm just trying to open our mind to ideas. And then from there, maybe you can go out and make a change. But I stress that I never want to become president. I can respect what Adam Kokesh is doing with Adam Kokesh for not president. I mean, if I was going to do it, that's the only way I would do it. And just be honest, like, I'm never, ever going to vote for a tax increase. F off with that. The only thing I'm ever going to do as a politician is deregulate. I will only deregulate and take away laws. I'll never add to laws. And that's why Ron Paul, you know, you could say, I hate all politicians, so wasn't Ron Paul even bad? Well, no. I mean, Ron Paul never voted for a tax increase. Can't you respect him for that? I mean, you can't say that from many other people. And yeah, so I've been talking for a minute, but that's kind of the gist of where I'm at. I I want this thing to grow because liberty is such a beautiful idea. It has a mountain of evidence behind it, and it's a very, very sound ideology.
Well, yeah, and excuse me, there's a lot to unpack there, but I'm really encouraged. I think just by what I've kind of have in my mind to be this network of, I guess, podcasters or voices or people on the internet that are connecting together. And this idea that I had in one of my episodes, episode 57, I gave a talk at Agora Symposium about the American Revolution and how we had a lot of literate people in the colonies, and a lot of people were writing in pamphlets and talking to each other, and there was a national discussion happening. And I guess if I could do anything, I wanted to emulate that idea and show how we can do that in the modern day using counter economics to fund hobbyist operations or professional operations like this, like independent media. And, you know, if we can get what I guess Prof. CJ would call a network of guerrilla scholar warriors,
right?
Maybe we can have this organic conversation that is bottom up kind of thing.
I mean, it's like, why do you think people love Tom Woods so much? He went to Harvard and Columbia. He's just a really, really family-oriented guy, really, really classy guy. People love that, and it's kind of a breath of fresh air, really, because I think the caricature of libertarians is that, you know, we smoke pot and, you know, we just really want freedom to like do drugs, or, you know, you could stereotype it any way you want to. Or libertarians are selfish and want the poor to die. That's a common one. I mean, you hear all these different things. So, you know, I'm just trying to break through some of these stereotypes. One thing I like about Dr. Rupert's book is she talks about compassion and how the reason she came to libertarianism was realizing that true compassion is when you take something out of your pocket and give it to somebody. Compassion is not when you take it out of somebody's pocket and give it to somebody else. It doesn't matter if you believe that the person you're taking it from doesn't need it. It does not matter. That's not the point. That's not true compassion. And I think we need to encourage people to think about it in that way. That I think some libertarians are keen to like run with it and like, yeah, like I'm selfish, like I should be able to do that. But I think most libertarians in general like are charitable and are caring. It's just our ideology just says that we don't want to use violence against people to get our way. What does that have to do with compassion? That's like a separate topic, right?
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I've been getting at too, is trying to put, you know, not just be a preacher or anything, but try and be the change and lead by example, I guess. And
exactly. And like, it's like, you don't want to sound cliche, like be the change you want to see in the world. It has more meaning to it than you think, because people are looking for the right ideas. People are looking for a path. And I think the people that are easiest to work with are those that are right on the edge. You know, I meet people that sometimes they call themselves apolitical. They don't really think about it much, but, you know, they kind of have some features of both. And it's just, you present those people with a few facts because they're listening. People who are extremists on either sides tend to not listen, but people in the middle are listening. And you push them in the right direction, and wow, you can create another libertarian. And I'll be honest, I've converted a lot of people to libertarianism, but, you know, even if it's just one person I converted, that feels amazing. But having the potential to be able to possibly change hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of lives, that is something to look forward to and wake up to each day, I would say.
Well, and we live in a day and age where that's possible. You know, I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
You're down in Colorado and I'm in the Twin Cities here, and we're talking in real time, and people can tune in and, you know, hear what we have to say. That's just, I mean, I could make the analogy to the Gutenberg printing press that's been made over and over again, but
yeah. You know, I was listening to Thomas Sowell one time, and he was talking about, I forget the period, but I think he was just saying, like, you know, within a few hundred years ago, most people had not traveled within 50 miles of where they were born in their entire lives. Wow. Think about this is a completely different world we live in, where, yeah, in a matter of seconds, I could be like, hey, Patrick, you're in Central Time Zone, I'm in Mountain Time Zone. Let me call you in about 3 seconds. And call shows up in 3 seconds. It's fascinating. We take a lot for granted. We take a whole lot for granted. And absolutely, you're right that we have so many. This is the time of opportunity right now. The day of the internet, the day of mass technology, that we can just get around and do things so much easier. It's crazy. We're so privileged that we take it for granted. It's kind of an odd story, and I was just thinking about it, but I get friend requests from people from other countries, and I add them. And this guy was messaging me last night, and it's hard to tell if people are real or not. But he was saying like, yeah, like I live in West Africa, and I was trying to ask this guy like, can you tell me about your government? Is it an oppressive government? And I don't know if I'm talking to a robot or not, but I'll take that chance. And they messaged me back like, yeah, I'm sitting here, my family's suffering, like we haven't eaten in days. And he was like, can you please send me some money to help me? And I didn't respond back. I didn't know what to say. That's horrible, but you don't know if it's real or fake, but there are people suffering like that in the world. When you talk about starvation in the US, well, what are you talking about? I mean, people starve for a few hours till someone gives them money. I mean, if you look at the homeless people in Denver, just in particular, they're pretty well fed. I'm not saying they're doing well. Their lives are completely broken. They're homeless, but they get fed. They get a few dollars. I mean, go sit at one stoplight and look at a homeless person there. You can count, and usually in one stoplight routine, you can see a few people give them money. It adds up. So, yeah. I mean, we take so much for granted. It's like in India, there's like generations of homeless people. When you ask these people, where do you live? Well, I live right here, the ground underneath my feet. Like, that doesn't even make that. We wouldn't even be able to comprehend that, most people.
Well, and I think of, Yemen too, and people starving and dying because of our foreign policy, and Libya and the slave trade that's restarted. But it's funny you mentioned that, because I had a conversation with someone on Twitter where I made a tweet about Yemen, and he kind of got after me, but he's like, no, I live in the UK and my sister lives in South Yemen right now. And I was tweeting against the US involvement and against Saudi Arabia, but he was saying, the South Yemeni people want Saudi Arabia to come in because, they're being oppressed too in their own certain way. And it's just, you want no NAP violations, but he was telling me all these things that I didn't know about. And this is the day and age when we can, have a direct conversation with someone that is directly, afflicted by these situations. And
I've been meeting people from all over the world. Like this one guy added me the other day from South Africa. And if you don't know what's going on in South Africa, just go Google it. I mean, a lot's happening right now. A lot of it is the result of apartheid, which is from many years ago, and that was that's a whole other discussion. But a lot of places around the world are in turmoil, just complete turmoil. Venezuela, the people are starving. I think in 21 out of 54 countries in Africa, they're ruled by oppressive dictators. 21 out of 54. It's like, can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I was talking to Anthony Samaroff the other day, and if you've never spoken to him, get him on your show, because he's the most uplifting guy. And he talks about something that's so true. I mean, obviously, we're anarchists. We want to get all government out of our lives completely. But we also have to make use of the liberty we do have. I can go out right now. I can make a podcast with you. I can be pretty certain that, my property is pretty protected, even though it's not a perfect climate. I could theoretically call somebody. So there are things to appreciate. I think some libertarians could go down that dark hole where it's like, you're constantly pessimistic. I think optimism is a much better way to bring people on board. It's like, what do you hate the most about Republicans and Democrats? Well, they fearmonger. That's at least what I hate the most. They fearmonger about everything. And libertarians can be that third voice that is like, hey, it doesn't have to be like this. Look, there's only two ways in which me and you can interact, voluntarily or coercively. We can all choose the first one and things will work out great. But if we choose the second one, well, we're just repeating history. And people talk so much about, we learn history so we don't repeat it. Well, how many people really learn history?
Yeah, right. How many people learn the right version of history?
Oh, yeah. I mean, exactly.
If they learn history at all, they're learning the wrong history, or they're learning history with omissions, history written by the victors. But
oh yeah, exactly.
I think it is easy to be negative, and I can be pretty damn negative at times. But
I'm out of coffee right now. I had Starbucks earlier, so I'm good now. But this morning, you wouldn't want to catch me on Facebook. I was
right.
I definitely get like that too. But I try to keep positive in that. I get messages from people almost every day now, whether it's like a thank you for what you're doing, or hey, like thanks for adding me as a friend, or hey, can you give me a resource to what you were talking about. Just every single day I get messages, and I know for a fact I'm making a difference, even though I just started. So, and you are too, and so is Dan, and so is everyone else. Like, we are reaching people. Now there's another podcast out right now. Do you know Anarcho Christian? I think it's called.
Yeah, I had Steven on the show.
Yeah, I've been talking to that guy. I want to get him on eventually, but is he in the Libertarian Union? I forget.
I don't know. He's with those damn Pax Libertas people.
Oh, okay.
With Roger Paxton over there. But yeah, he's a smart guy. I mean, that's
no, I love the diversity because I'm privately Christian. I don't talk about it much. I mean, it's just religion's a different subject than politics for me. Like, if someone wants to go there, it's like, all right, well, we're getting away from politics. But yeah, I mean, I love the concept of the show. And just the point is that I see a lot of new things coming out. Like, do you know Ben Swan?
Yeah, I've heard of Ben Swan.
Love Ben Swan. He's part of what is it called? Truth in Media. That's what he's called. It's called Truth in Media, and he does a Tuesday, Thursday little show, and it's amazing because he did it right. Honestly, and if you look at my podcast, like, I really, really try not to go above 25 minutes. Once people look at a video and they're like, oh man, 45 minutes, 2 hours, like, that's a commitment. 20 minutes is like, I could listen to that on the way to work. You know what I mean? So the way he does it, he does like 6 to 8 minute videos, just packed full of info, really, really nice looking studio. That's the way to do it, because Dan was having this problem. Like, Dan would put out like 1 to 3 hour episodes and like nobody watches them. And it's not just him, it's everybody. Like, a 3 hour commitment, like, unless it's Rogan, maybe some people will commit to Rogan, but most people don't have 1 to 3 hours to dedicate to a video. They just don't. So I've been trying to go for a little bit shorter, pack a lot of info in there in like a short amount of time. But yeah, that's at least my theory right now. But Dan, obviously, he's doing the Last Nighters now. So that was his goals to, cut back. And obviously,
there you go. Well, yeah, it was. One thing I wanted to key into was division of labor. That's I think one thing that we should talk about as well, because like you were saying, there's so many people producing content right now. Well, we have all these niches that need to be filled in the movement. And, as capitalists, we know that in order to be the most efficient, we have to have that division of labor. And
right, exactly.
I mean, what I'm trying to do is to be the libertarian legal guy, because I think there's a gap there, and I hate to peg people. I hesitate to, try and say this is what they are. But as I see it, Larkin Rose would be the talking to status guy, and Adam Kokesh is the speaking with vets guy. And so we have all those different positions, but it's hard to find that niche. And I think it takes a lot of trial and error. And I think that's the hardest part, because it takes a lot of hard work and time, and trying things and having them fail. so that's been some things that I've been dealing with lately.
Yeah, no, I've dealt with all those struggles, and people watching, they're like, what the hell is going on? I'm dealing with my own issues, trying to like perfect things. It takes a long time. I was telling Dan, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was just about to start, and I was sitting there with like some like resentment, like, man, like, I don't have enough money to get my website set up. I don't know if my editing is going to look good enough, because if you look at my videos, there are plenty of mistakes, I mean, that'll all perfect over time. But I've had a lot of pitfalls. It really breaks you down. It really makes you think like, man, like, was I meant to do this? You constantly have those thoughts. So it was hard doing this. Yeah, it was hard doing this. So I guess in that sense, I'm very, very proud of it.
Yeah. Well, you should be. I mean, like, have you had it yet where you finish a video, or you finish doing one and you're about to release it and you're like, man, that sucked?
Well, the hardest ones for me are my solo episodes, because I'll tell you, I have a pronunciation problem. I've had it all my life, and it's not for all words. Sometimes I can go like half an hour without mispronouncing something, but other times I talk too fast and I just flub words. I get really embarrassed about it. So when I do solo episodes, I might do a take like 15 times.
Yeah.
I've always been like that. But I think just in practice, you get better. John Stossel is one of my favorite, and he talks about how he had a stutter. And if you have a stutter, that really messes up things. So he had to work on that. So if he can overcome that, I can I can learn to slow down and learn to pronounce things a little bit better. You know, it comes in time.
Well, I mean, I was gonna like finish and just say that, you know, you look back at it afterwards, and I've been doing this for almost a year now, and I have a master episode list, and I look back and I'm like, man, that's 60 episodes. That's a body of work, you know?
Oh, I know. Yeah, you're doing great, man. I'm like, I hope at this point I can get to like episode 10 because, you know, hopefully at this point I got to record a bunch of episodes, and I record everything a week in advance for a reason. Because, for example, like the last 2 nights, my guest, they just had an issue and couldn't show up. So imagine I had to record episodes and put them out the same day. Oh boy, that would be a disaster instantly because you have a guest that can't show up. So a lot of it's just luck. You get lucky that you make recording schedules with people when they show up.
Yeah.
It's not as easy as it looks. There is a reason not a lot of people do this, and there's a reason a lot of people who do it fail, or just no one watches their show because there's something missing. Yeah. And I constantly I'm OCD about going back over and like, oh, like I'll never gonna say Joseph Pierre Proudhon, gonna say Pradone, you know, just like fixing those errors over time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, well, what else do you have anything else that you wanted to plug? Do we want to put a bookend on this?
Well, you guys are more than welcome to check out my website, which I just did my Bluehost yesterday. So you can check out forpeaceandliberty.com. That's going to be my main website. Pretty much everything else is just going to be / the Peace and Liberty podcast. Now I'm trying to work on my YouTube channel name. Like you need like 100 subscribers. So for YouTube, just type in the Peace and Liberty podcast. You'll find me. I'm on Castbox now, which is an app you can download on your smartphone. That just has the audio only version, but it's pretty nifty. I actually really, really like Castbox. Just download the app, type in my name, and you'll find my episodes. You guys can, if you guys want to donate to me, because I need help right now, I'm not going to lie, but you guys can find me on Patreon and GoFundMe, just all / the Peace and Liberty podcast. Let's see, what else did I want to link to? Well, I can throw out this other announcement that now that I have my Bluehost, I can have as many websites as I want to. So I'm going to be starting a website, hopefully in the next month. It might take me a while, but I'm going to start a website called Debate Liberty. And I'm going to be setting up some pretty professional looking debates in that I'm going to get 2 people who like really, really want to debate each other and actually go at it, you know, not just friends debating. And they'll have a few weeks to prepare. We'll promote it for a few weeks and hopefully get a live audience. And, you know, I really hope that can take off, but that's kind of a thing where it either works or it doesn't. And, you know, it'll just be really fun. I love hosting debates with people because you get to see things through people's lenses, and that's important. It's easy to shut out everybody and just call them a communist, but like try to understand where they're coming from, because maybe you can find an opportunity to correct them, because maybe they're thinking about things just a little bit wrong. You know, or I don't know how to describe that, but yeah.
No, right on. I think that's a great idea, and you know, hopefully to become a facet in the future going forward of where people can come and have discussions. But
yes,
you were saying your website is for Peace and Liberty, as an FOR.
That's correct. I'm going to change my camera battery, by the way, but yep, it's forpeaceandliberty.com. Kind of how you think of For New Liberty by Rothbard.
Excellent. Yeah. So, well, I'll close it up here towards the end while you're fixing your camera, but I just wanted to touch on this idea of encouraging people to have their own voice online, whether it's you know, you sitting up with a microphone and having a YouTube page where you could easily just throw your thoughts up there. And I think what I'm really seeing and what I really love about the Liberty movement, the online sphere right now, is that people are doing this. You know, you have Mance Raider, who's come about in the last year. He has come out with a book. He has his own show. You know, Steven is doing stuff. I had someone on the show, or my buddy Thijs from the Netherlands, whom we met on Facebook, and he was listening to the show, and now he wants to start a show providing a libertarian legal perspective from the European side. So that's cool. His show will be dropping like next week or in the next couple weeks here. So I'm so stoked that you're starting your show. We need more people to do this, even though it is tough, but it is rewarding, and you meet great people, and you really grow as a person. So,
I think that's the thing I've gotten most out of it, is just that I've met so many people, and Libertarians are pretty up. Most of them are pretty awesome people in that they're very supportive, and we know we're a minority politically right now, but we reinforce each other because like we know. I think it's great when I see other people that were red pilled per se, because just like man, like I can remember my journey going through that. That's why I think when I first considered myself an anarcho-capitalist, I would have been more prone to bash somebody and just be like, oh, you believe in one function of government, you're a statist. But I mean, you got to try to understand where people are coming from. What kind of environment did they grow up in? What did they hear? What was put into their head 24/7? You want to blame somebody who's gullible growing up for getting brainwashed? I mean, I don't understand that. It's like you either want to help or you don't. If you don't want to talk to people, like you're not undoing, you're just making it worse. When you argue with people, you're just reinforcing what they think. Like, oh, libertarians are angry and crazy and call you statist. Like, are you kidding me? Like libertarians, I could just talk for hours and hours and hours. And that's like the big difference I see is that, when you talk to Republicans or Democrats, they typically have one-liner talking points, and that's the 1% has more wealth than the bottom 99%. I mean, how many times have you freaking heard that on TV, man? It's like I can do the voice because I've heard it so much. And when you talk to a libertarian, you kind of realize that, man, the reason Republicans and Democrats and the two-party system can do what they do is because when you listen to the media, everything's in like 30-second sound bits. How do you categorize libertarianism in 30 seconds? Well, you got to understand some history. You got to actually talk about things. It takes time to talk about things and think about them. You can't do it in 10 seconds. I mean, it's just entering into, when you enter into academia, that's what you're entering into.
Yeah. And, well, I think though the biggest thing I think is from people who I think are asleep is the majority of the population. I think we could reach them, but at the same time, I think what I get from, at least my wife, who isn't interested in politics as much as I am, is that she says, well, I'm just one person and I can't change anything. And, it's so depressing and I have my own stuff going on. I'm trying to, go to work every day and living paycheck to paycheck. So how do we reach those people and illustrate to them that A, they can make a difference, and B, it's important that they do?
I think the main way is just to make them realize once you have facts on command, and I use that phrase a lot because what I mean is, I use a pun intended on my guns episode because I'm trying to arm you with knowledge. You take this and you start talking to people, and when you have things on command to say, like you can bring up a date or you can bring up a person, people realize like, he's not just repeating what I would expect him to repeat. He's talking about all these different things. Like, for example, I used to work with this one guy, and he mentioned the robber barons one time. He was like, oh, we need government regulations because you remember those robber barons. And I was like, well, Cornelius Vanderbilt had a pretty interesting story. In fact, I think the New York Times called him the greatest anti-monopolist that ever lived, because essentially what he would do is just undercut people. He would they would call that evil, but really it's just providing a cheaper service. He would he was in the steam ship industry, and he would transport people back and forth, and he would keep cutting his prices, and eventually he made the fee he cut the fee down completely. There was no fee to use the boat, but he would just charge people for food on the ship. And he just crushed everybody. And basically, it talks about and the book I'm referencing, by the way, it's called The Myth of the Robber Barons by Burton Folsom. Great book. The first chapter alone will just make you think like, I can see why they're bashed, but at the same time, they were anti-monopolists in the sense that people who seek to provide the best product for the lowest price. I mean, look at what Rockefeller did. I mean, we could talk about things Rockefeller did that were shady, but he brought the price of oil down to an amount that made it so everybody could live. So how we do now. And, look at the world now. Drop the cup.
Yeah, remember what we were talking about before?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say the James J. Hill house is right down the street, and he was the one that, he had the first privately funded railroad that.
Yes. He's a very, very interesting story. He's I think he's chapter 2 or 3 in the book. So yeah.
There you go. Well, so bringing things to a close here, everybody definitely should go check out Stephen's podcast at, is that 4peaceandliberty.com now? Is that where you're sending people?
Well, That's my website that I just got set up. I would just suggest for now, if you just want to listen to audio only, download Castbox on your iPhone or smartphone, and you can check me out audio that way. Just go to YouTube though and just check out the Peace and Liberty podcast. Find me there. But over in a week, I'll hopefully have my website set up. But you can go there. You can kind of see, you can watch me progress day by day. But I'll start plugging that website more. But it was really good timing because when we recorded last, I didn't have any of this set up. So I think it all worked out for the best, man. It's been really great talking to you.
Oh yeah, you as well, most definitely. And I'll include a link in the show notes page to, whatever links you throw my way, but also to your YouTube channel as well. So, all right, right on. Well, thanks everyone. I forgot to mention that you can view the video podcast at my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Liberty Weekly. I'm directing people towards BitChute more so. So bitchute.com/Liberty Weekly. But also it will be embedded in the show notes page at libertyweekly.net/59. All right. Well, thanks everyone. We'll catch you later.